Hi, good morning. Welcome to Naked Talk with Unprocessed Jess. And today I have an amazing guest, Natalia Castillo, and she is from right here in Houston. And she is the director of the Miss Houston Latina pageant, fitness model, competitor, 4-time world champion for Musclemania. And she also is a huge advocate for women and having confidence and addressing mental health. So I have her on here to get naked and real about what is behind the business, right? A lot of times we see, and I've shared this so many times, we see the person and the pictures, but we don't always know everything that goes on behind the scenes. So I'm really excited to talk to her today and answer some of your questions that you have as well. One of the reasons I started this podcast was to talk about the things that we're struggling with, but we're not talking about, whether it's fear, shame, or guilt, because we need to know that we're not alone. So many years ago, when my kids were small, I hit a rock bottom moment and I felt just really isolated. And I have a passion to let others know that they're not alone and we need to share our stories and share our mission. She's also going to share her Fireyoup project that's coming up in October. I'm going to be taking part in that, and we'll get more into that later. But let me introduce you to Natalia Castillo. Welcome to Naked Talk.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Jess. I'm very excited to be here and have the opportunity to talk about my platform and what I'm passionate about. You and I met recently, and as soon as we met, it was a click.
Yes.
Because the two of us have a lot in common. We stand for the same things, and I believe that mental health is one of the number one reasons why I started doing what I do now, and I'm very excited to be here and be able to share this with the world. And we're not gonna get like real naked without the clothes. I want to make that clear. I know you guys want us to, but no, we're gonna
Not
be
today.
really talking about from the heart and genuine from what we have experienced and where we are today.
That's right.
Yes.
And when we met, I'd followed you on Instagram, which we've always said, is such a great thing because it connects you with people you wouldn't have otherwise met. Sure. And right away, I knew it was very similar along the lines of that. With the pageants and everything, I think that's great. Of course, that draws someone to you. I'm sure you get this all the time, that your looks and your body, and that might be something that they're drawn to you for. But I immediately knew, okay, this girl, there's a lot more than that. So there's beauty, brains, the body, but I love the message overall, for sure, what you stand for. So I'm so excited to be able to collaborate with you on this. But before we get into your project, Natalia, I want to, what I like to do with the listeners is really share something that makes us uncomfortable, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're one of those, you were saying at your introductory meeting for Fireyoup this Sunday, which was amazing, by the way, that it's about getting out of your comfort zone. And it's just taking that first step. So I want to get a little uncomfortable here and say you shared about a really dark time in your life when you were depressed and you were at a really dark moment. Is there something about that moment or during that time that really helped you to turn that around and say, okay, this is my rock bottom moment, but how can I use this message? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that all goes back to really where everything started, which was at the beginning you mentioned I'm from here, but I was actually born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. That's why you hear a little bit of an accent. And growing up, I grew up in a very, very safe environment. Believe it or not, it was Colombia, but my parents overprotected me a lot. And I grew up in a Christian family in a little bubble. And I grew up thinking that life was perfect and that everybody was there for you and that people were good. There was never bad in people. I never really saw the other side of life growing up. So when I started going to high school, I was like thinking, what am I going to do with my life after I graduate? And I couldn't come up with the answer for that. I was a little lost after high school, and not knowing what I wanted to go to school for or things like that. So I had the opportunity to actually come to the States and step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because changing countries and learning a new language and literally stepping out of the comfort zone and pretty much the comfort of your home can really, really like stretch your your limits. So I came here with the first goal in mind was to learn English. That was the number one thing I needed to do and I wanted to do was to learn English. But another thing that I was concerned about when I moved here, I had a lot of stereotypes about this country. And the number one thing that I had in mind was like I would see it in the movies and I would see it like you would hear it and all this stuff that American people are fat. I always thought of that. Like it was a stereotype that I would always see like obese people and like people eating so much food. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to go to that place. And it was a total stereotype that I had. So when I came in here to this country, I was very concerned about gaining weight. So I was always like thinking like, no, I'm going to keep exercising. I've always been very fit and athletic all my since I was little. But when I moved here, I had that fear in my mind that I'm gonna get fat. So one time that when I went back to Colombia to visit my friends, every summer I would go back and visit, a friend of mine told me, don't worry about it. Don't worry about getting fat. Just take these pills. These pills will eliminate your hunger. So you're always going to be fit and it's going to be great. They've worked wonders for me. So just take them and you're going to be fine.
And that is definitely an American way. Everyone
Yes.
wants a quick fix and pill, so I agree with you there.
So I was 18 years old. I was not obese in any ways. I've always been fit. But what happened was that I started taking these pills to kind of eliminate that fear of getting fat. And that's what took me into my depression. I literally went down the hill in like maybe 3 months or 6 months. I started losing myself. I started losing my hair. I started completely feeling so not myself. I literally lost my fire. I lost my energy and I went into a clinical depression. So I had to go back to Colombia for a full year. I had to drop school. I was already going to school here. I had a couple of jobs. All of that was completely stopped because of that. Because the self-image that sometimes we put so much pressure in ourselves to look perfect and to look amazing when we can do it the right way. So that's when I fell into my depression. And that year of my life was definitely my darkest. But I now, 12 years later, I can, or more. It's been a little longer. I can now say that God put me through that process for a reason, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I can't wait to share this story with so many women that are struggling with self-love and self-image and that are worried about gaining weight and not being approved by others.
Yes, I love that. And I was going to mention as well that you are the director of Miss Houston Latina, and you were Miss Houston Latina. And I did pageants when I was in college, and there's definitely a dark side to pageants. And that's something that I dealt with. I remember being, working out twice a day. I was in college, and I remember the director telling me, you need to shave more off your legs, and I just thought it was just a lot of pressure on me back then. And yes, you and I know just as well as anybody, fitness is important. Yes. You want to take care of your body.
Absolutely.
Science shows, research shows, our personal, testimonies show that when you work out and take care of your body and you put great things into your body, then you feel better. And it helps your, mental health, which I definitely want to get into because I know that's important to you as well. Yes. So I'm not saying that's not important, but it's what is the reason you're doing it?
Yes.
And to have this outside pressure to look a certain way. So I love that you and I have other friends that are in the pageants industry now. I love that women are stepping up and they're little firecrackers like you. They're feisty and they're like, no, we're gonna make this a different thing. And I love that you said you can do it in a healthy way.
Absolutely.
Everything can be done in a healthy way. It's not about taking a pill and then not getting to the symptom of whether that's your, your mental health or your weight loss that you're trying to do. Because as a holistic health coach, I know all areas are interconnected. So it's not the weight. There's something beneath that.
Absolutely.
So you definitely have a platform. And I love that you're reaching out to younger women in this program, the Fireyoup, that I want to have you tell us about.
Yes.
It starts at, is it 16? I believe.
Yes,
15,
16. We're doing 16. Yeah, 16 to 32. However, we're going to have different seasons when we're going to focus it on different ages. So we are going to also do one for kids. And we have a lot of plans for this program because I believe that there's a lot of topics that need to be discussed for certain ages at different times. So this one, the one that we're kicking off is going to be for girls mainly in their 20s.
Yes, and that's so good because something that with my personal story is when you said you lost yourself in that fear, for me it was being in pageants, being in college, and then finding myself in that relationship that was a not healthy for me and leaving. And my daughter was 10 months at the time. I didn't know it, but I was pregnant at the time with our second daughter. And then just leaving and going from this life that I expected to now not having a place. And my mom did take me in, but really going from what I thought I should have been and what was great to having nothing but literally my health and my baby and her health. And it really affected me, and I lost my fire for sure, 100% hands down. I just had shame, and I was not the girl that I thought I was going to be. So it's important my point all that was to say, to reach these young women before that. So regardless of what life throws their way, they can go back to that and always have that, because let me tell you, I'm 42, I have 3 kids, and even though God replaced everything I lost 1,000 times over, I lost my fire again because I lost myself in motherhood. I tried to do these things and think what was expected of me. And I woke up at 40 and was like, my life is okay, but I don't want to be just okay.
Absolutely.
I want the fire and I want the spice. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Share a little bit more about the mental health as your platform, because that's important to me as well.
Yeah, that's where everything was born from. It was that I strongly believe that when you struggle with something, or God puts you through a dark journey, because I do believe that there is a purpose behind those moments, you can take something out of it and learn from it and actually share your story to help others. So that's how I started, pretty much slowly but surely after I recovered from my depression. I had the opportunity to come back to the States and finish my degree from U of H. And after that, I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? So I like the fact that you're saying that we have to reinvent ourselves. It doesn't matter what age you are. You can lose your fire at 15, you can lose your fire at 20, you can lose your fire at 30, 50. It does not matter what age you are, you can always find it again. So there is always hope that there are things that we have to do in order to do it, and it's a group of things that we have to do. So I'll speak about those different elements that I believe that we have to have in order to find the fire again. But to give you a little bit of perspective on the pageant that you also were saying about the pageant life and all that, I saw it as an opportunity to actually speak up, because I truly enjoy people. I like talking to people, but I was like, wow, what if I join this pageant and if I win, I'm gonna be able to have a stage and I'll be able to actually share my story. So everything started there when I recovered from depression, and then I joined pageantry for a specific reason of learning something new, putting myself out of the comfort zone, and changing the stereotypes that women and beauty queens don't have to be 6 foot tall and a size 0 to be successful. I'm 5 feet tall. For people that see me on Instagram, they're like, they see me in person and they're like, oh my God, you're so short. So I do believe that I want to change those stereotypes, and that beauty and outside beauty is not definitely everything, and you have to have a group of things in order to actually feel good about yourself. So that's what happened after I reigned for a full year. I went and competed for Texas, so I also won the Miss Texas Latina pageant, and after that I knew that there was something bigger than this. It wasn't just wearing a crown and a sash.
Yes.
I understood the impact that we have as women on other and younger generations. So I was honored to be offered the opportunity to run the Houston pageant. And I said, absolutely, even a bigger platform to impact more women.
Yes.
So that has always been my passion. And every year that I do what I do, I'm preparing for the next step. And I believe that God puts you in a place for a reason, and you have to take it seriously. No matter where you are, take it seriously, because you never know what can come out of that. And that's how Fireyoup was born. It's because I've been doing the pageant seasons for 4 years now. And every time that I do the pageant, girls are like, this pageant is different. They're teaching us more than just knowing how to walk and model. Like, I'm learning mental health, I'm learning how to connect with people, I'm learning how to trust my instincts, all those things that life is like a pageant. You are judged every day, and you need those skills in order to survive. So I wanted to open up the platform even more, because pageants do have restrictions as far as you can't have kids, you can't be married, you can't have a certain age and all that. And I'm like, no, all women need these skills. So Fire You Up is born, and here we are doing our very first edition, and we can't wait. We can't wait to just keep sharing with the world.
Yes, and one thing I like when you said it's a group of things you need. So it goes back to that holistic health, right?
Yes.
You're going to bring in the fitness, the nutrition part, me talking about that body love and all of those things. And of course, I also love that you said even things that we need to think about today, and our younger generation does as well, like your LinkedIn profile. How are you presenting yourself, not just in the world, but online? Because I can tell you, as a mom of 3 girls, one is a preteen, 2 are teens, I definitely see that side of that all the things that children are having to deal with, and how back when I was a child or a teen, you know, there's a lot of things I did that I regret, but there wasn't like proof of it, you know, and now you have this proof online
and you can't delete it.
You can't delete it. You think you do, but you can't. So I love that you're also saying, you know, mock interview, how to present yourself, how to look people in the eye. That's something that a lot of times we're losing with online. And I, like you, I'm online a lot, but I also love connecting. So I get out and I live and I meet other people and network, and it's teaching you, looking someone in the eye. And I loved how you said, you show up, I'm here, hi, nice to meet you. You know, I'm Jessica, and I'm looking you in the eye. And a lot of women I've noticed, even still, you know, recently, they don't look up. They don't know how, and it's whether they don't know how to do it, or they've lost their fire, or there's that shame there. So that's what I want to do, is build this next generation of young women up, so they can be confident and strong and face life as a pageant. You know, hey, this one you lost this round, but that's okay. You know, there's a bigger purpose. Keep going. And it's just so important. So I love that you're putting all that into there. And I do want to touch a little bit more on the mental health.
Yes.
I've shared that I lost my brother, my younger brother, to combat PTSD-induced suicide. And we deal with other mental health issues in our family. And it is isolating, it's definitely for the person going through it, but also as family members.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't know how to, it's one of those things, like several things I'm talking about, you know, bodies and sex and shame, that there is some shame to it.
Yes,
there's embarrassment.
absolutely.
And even though a lot of people talk about it, it's not understood really well. And we talked about stereotypes earlier. There's a stereotype to it.
Yes.
I know growing up, you know, my dad was a Vietnam veteran, and it was all about, you know, you don't want to show weakness. You know, you want to be strong in a lot of things. And I can honestly say, since we're being naked here, candid conversations, that, you know, before it touched our family, I would have thought in my younger days, like, well, that's selfish. That's so weak. You know, and it's always different when it happens to us or someone we love, isn't it?
Sure.
And that's why it's important to start these conversations.
Yes.
So I know you said that you were clinically depressed. And I think share a little bit about, especially I know through your pageants, but through Fire You Up, how would someone who says, hey, I've lost my fire and I am feeling anxiety, I am feeling these things, how is the program going to help them with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. First of all, I'm very sorry about your brother. I do think that those are things that many people are embarrassed to talk about, and they feel less if you have a mental disorder, bipolar disorder, depression, all those things, anxiety, all those things are things that you're embarrassed to talk about. But I strongly believe that we need to speak up, and we need to talk about how we're feeling, and who we talk to about these things is also super important. Because if you are surrounded by people who have no clue what you're going through and who have never been there, they're going to judge you. They're going to actually give you the wrong advice. They're probably going to say, you know what, just do drugs and you're going to feel better. And that's actually going to make it worse. So the number one thing that the program is going to do for the girls, and that Fire You Up is going to focus on, is educating. I believe that education is literally the base of everything in order for you to come out of any struggle that you have is educating yourself. So I have an awesome team of people and coaches that are passionate about the program and that also have a lot of knowledge. I have psychologists who are going to come out and explain what these different illnesses are and what they mean and the symptoms, because most of the time we don't know what's happening. And that's how it started for me. When I was feeling depressed, I had no clue what happened. The only thing that I could explain, or the way I could explain it, is I felt like I lost myself. I was like, where is the girl that I knew growing up? Where is she? I felt completely lost. And I feel that once we understand why it happens, and we understand that there is a chemical imbalance in your brain, and that it goes beyond just being sad and feeling bad about yourself, then we have the light. Then as long as you have that knowledge and you understand the symptoms and the different paths that you can take to get better, then that is what I want. I want to give the girls a path to get better, a path, and also an environment, a very positive environment in which they can meet people like you, and that I can connect you with those women that need to hear your story and that need to hear more. So my job is pretty much connecting the experts with the ones that need it, and me being in the mix, just helping out and connecting people as much as I can. But I do believe that this program can save lives, and I'm so ready for this. I know that God has me here for a reason, and I'm super fired up.
I am too, and we even said everything is God's timing. I found you a long time ago and followed you. I think we have mutual friends in Houston. And I said, I thought I had this idea to help the girls in the pageants, because it, like we said, it touches on all these different things, even digestion and the gut-brain connection, all of these things that so many people don't think, they're connected, but they are.
Absolutely.
But the timing was so right. We met at the Galleria, earlier, and through a mutual friend who is amazing as well, doing great things. She is an engineer, but she also has a fashion line, and helping women. So timing is everything. I think that's so important. But another thing too, and as well as I do, remember, we're getting naked here. These are things we don't want to talk about. But I was thinking, as I'm looking at this beautiful group of young women last weekend, statistic-wise, that there are women in that group who have gone through sexual abuse, or maybe an abusive sexual partner. And that's another thing. So much shame around it, and we don't want to talk about it, but how that affects all the other areas of your life. And just me, as I've been on this journey, looking back at different things that have happened in my life or my different sexual experiences, just not talking about it. There's that lack of just, hey, this is your body. It's a beautiful thing. God created your body. As women, there's no parts that are dirty or we shouldn't talk about, I think what happens a lot of times is especially if you're a parent, you're carrying your sexual baggage and you're projecting it onto your child. So when we're children, we don't know the difference between our, labia and vagina and an elbow. We just know it's a body part. But what happens is, whether we've been abused or have had these things, or we hear, people telling us things or see it on media, we start having all these things in our head that are just crazy. And so that's something I'm really excited for your program to really touch on, things that we need to talk about, because it affects your confidence. It affects how you are if you go for a job interview. If it's you and the other person, if you have these things about your body you're not comfortable with, you're not going to show your best self. So I really want to be that safe place to give women permission to say, let's ask the body questions, How do we get to that? So I'm excited so much for the lives that you're going to touch in this program. But I really felt at that meeting, like, just looking at these beautiful women there, that the things that they're going through, we need to be that positive community to get them help, and not just say, we see you rising up and we're going to be jealous for you. No, let's celebrate that. I shared on my Instagram even this morning, I've worked on a lot to be confident, but I thought, I don't know if this is just a woman thing, but I thought, oh my gosh, Natalia's going to be there and she looks gorgeous and wears makeup. So and, but you start thinking in your head like, oh my gosh, well, I don't wear a lot of makeup. But it's okay to have those thoughts, but then we need to say, okay, We're not competing. Like
Yes.
this is, I'm going to bring my best. She's going to bring her best.
Yes.
But I think it's important for us to say we still struggle with those insecurities,
Yes.
but it's what are you going to do with it? You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I love what you're saying. The first thing that I love exactly what you mentioned is how all those women are going through so much, and creating an environment where you can share your story and not feel judged and not
Yes.
feel less because you're sharing your past or what you're going through, I think is very powerful. Because I can tell you from the program, one of the things that we do in the pageant is we sit down and we wear no makeup specifically for this class because we want to be 100% who we are, 100% real. We sit down in a circle and we talk about what we've been through and things that in our past have defined who we are, and we had let those things define us. So we actually speak up, and you would not believe the most beautiful girls speaking about things that are dark, like rape, like things that are very, very difficult for teens to talk about or for women to talk about. And for the other girls that maybe are not as good looking or maybe as fit, hearing the pretty girl who's a size 0 explaining how she was destroyed when she was 12 years old, it brings things into perspective. And it takes you back to, hey, I need to stop comparing myself with somebody else. Because when you see someone else and you're like, oh my God, her life is perfect, she's always so. And this is a thing that is a challenge for me, because a lot of people put me on like a pedestal, like, oh, she's a fitness model, she's a size 0, she's always fit, she's always energy. No, I always have my struggles. There are days that I don't want to get out of bed. And I have to always remind myself, remember, you went through this for a reason, and I'm going to stop comparing myself. I'm going to get out of bed and find what's good in you instead of comparing yourself with someone else. And that's how I truly believe that I've been able to win the pageants and win the competitions, the fitness competitions. It's a whole new world, and the industry is very competitive. But I strongly believe that I have received those titles because I have focused 100% on my journey and not comparing my arms or my legs with the girl right next to me or the girl that's taller. You cannot get distracted with somebody else's journey. You have to focus 100% on what you're good at, and exploding those areas in your life and finding what you're good at, and seeing once you find what you're good at, how can I use this to help somebody else? And that's where we are.
Yes, and so many times I know that it's when, just you're a perfect example, when you walk into, wherever you are, you can feel that energy.
Yes.
And it's not the comparing, even in the pageants or different things.
Oh, yes.
I know Fireyoup is not that. It's not a competition.
Yes.
It's a growth journey.
Yes.
But if you're going with your best, they're going to feel that energy.
Sure.
And I know you and I just briefly have touched on this as well as something I do. Once again, it's scary, right, to talk about all these topics, but I feel like I want to be the one to push that and talk and give someone else permission to have candid conversations. But you and I briefly shared growing up Christian, that even some of that judgment that comes with that, and that I think is even harder for a lot of, I'm just speaking for myself now anyway, especially when I was a homeschool mom, and around mainly homeschoolers, it's hard to speak up and share your story and not be judged. And I think that you have to have that energy, and something that I've shared as well. I may not always have, scriptures on my profile or saying I'm a Christian, but I want the person that I encounter with to say there's something different about her. I want them to feel God's love, even if they can't put a finger on it at that time. And so I just ask God, how are you going to use my story, my life, what I'm going through to share with someone else? And so that's something I like to talk about as well, is that as it doesn't matter the religion that you are, you don't have to be saying things. It's in your actions and how you treat each other. But what does that come from? From feeling good about yourself and from getting your fire again, And I will tell you, I'm 42. I lost mine and I found mine at 40, and I like life a lot more on this side.
I love it.
I like being spicy and fired up. I met a lady yesterday, 50 years old. She was 200 pounds, had spinal cord surgery, started working out, and she said, Jessica, this saved my life. She said working out, just feeling better about herself. But you know what kept her going back? Even at 200 pounds on the treadmill
Yes.
as these, fitness competitors and different women walked by.
Yeah.
She said they made her feel so welcome. They were positive.
Yeah.
And she's very healthy now, very fit. But she said, I don't want to say I'm 50. And so she was mentioning, her sex drive and different things. And she said, I don't want to go without. And that's when we had that conversation. Okay, let's start talking about it. There's something deeper here. And I think as women, a lot of time too, and we're just covering all the bases today.
All the bases.
Because it matters. But we think, especially as moms, a certain age or we're a mom now, that we're not sexual beings. And what's happening is a lot of women are just being okay with just losing their sex drive or not having sex in their marriage. So that's something else that I am passionate about is really just speaking with women, but don't wait until you're 40 or your kids are grown to say, what the heck happened? I'm missing out on a really big part of my life here. And I think seeing it in a healthy way and knowing about things before you get into the situation, right? Just like with anything, think of you preparing the girls for their job interview.
Yes.
The time to think, what am I going to do at this interview is not when you're sitting down interviewing.
Yeah.
You've got to know what to expect. You got to learn, how to present yourself, how to react if you get in a certain situation. And that's what we need to do with our bodies and with sex. And I know as a parent, a lot of times I was guilty of this thinking, if I talk to my kids about sex, they're going to have sex. But that's not the case. We want to talk about these things and ask those questions so that when we're faced with situations, we can handle them better.
Absolutely.
And I know you mentioned you're recently married, so that's exciting. And that's a different, as a new couple, I'm sure there was things like now you're married and you might have this image of what marriage life is like. And it's not even that it's bad. It's just different, right? And you have to learn how to navigate that. And now fast forward to, 20, 30 years into your marriage, it's going to look it's going to look different. But I think us as women just having all these areas addressed, it's going to help in relationships and business, in everything, in parenting if they choose to have children. So
yeah, I agree. I'm glad that you're mentioning that part as well, because that's another one of our workshops is relationships and how we are choosing the right or the wrong partner in life, and that can make you or destroy you. And I strongly believe that if you have a good life partner, you can achieve a lot more, and you can actually have the life that you dream. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have issues and that you're not going to have difficulties with your partner, because we're humans, and if there's people involved, there is always going to be conflict. But it's having somebody who respects you as much as you respect yourself. But that all starts with self-love. And if you love yourself, you're going to pick the right person for you, and you're not going to settle for somebody who mistreats you or somebody who talks down on you. But that all starts with loving yourself. And if you absolutely love the person you are, you're not going to put up with that stuff. You're going to respect yourself first, and you're going to attract the right men in your life or women. So I strongly believe that surrounding yourself with good people, and the small circle that you surround yourself with determines a lot of your mental health as well. So I wanted to go back to the mental health topic that we're covering today, because I strongly believe that there is a group of things that we need to do, and I wanted to mention or explain or give a little light of how I came out of my depression, and what were those elements that I used in order to overcome my depression, because it's not just one thing. It's not just going to church and praying. That doesn't just work, and it's not like magic. So I do believe that you first have to have faith. I do believe that faith can get you out of it. It doesn't have to be God specifically. Whatever you believe in, I believe that faith is the number one. And then you also have to be aware that this is a chemical imbalance. And sometimes when the depression or the disorder is too advanced, we do need some medicine to get out of at least the most difficult crisis, like the darkest time. We sometimes need that extra help for our brain to balance. I strongly believe that nutrition and fitness is my medicine. I always say when I don't work out in the morning, or when I don't work out in a couple of days, I automatically start feeling bad. And another key for that is knowing yourself and knowing those triggers, knowing that when I don't sleep well, if I sleep less than 6 hours and I don't work out, I automatically start feeling the change. And it's recognizing those things about you and what triggers your body. Alcohol is definitely a depressant. If I wanted to go out and have fun with some friends, I know for a fact that I cannot have alcohol, because I know that I have biologically, I also have a tendency to have depression because of my parents, my grandma, and all that. And so you have to understand where it comes from, but use those different elements, which was faith. The number 2 was medicine. Sometimes you also have to use a nutrition and fitness, and then surround yourself with the right people. Without my family, especially my dad, I couldn't gotten out of it. He believed in me again, and he trusted me that I was ready to come back and finish my degree. And I get really emotional about it, because you need those people to believe in you. And most of the girls that join the program don't have that support system. Yeah. So I want to create that support system for them. And I'm sorry I get emotional about this, but I strongly believe that without my dad and my family, I would not be here, because it got to a point that I wanted to not live again, and I wanted to die. And there are many people out there that are going through that and that are afraid to explain and say, you know what, I just want to die. So why not be there for them at the right time and create this support system where we can be there for them and help them.
Yes. And I, like you were saying, it's embarrassing for a lot of people, but what's happening is they don't say anything, and then they do die, you know, and then it's up to us to create those opportunities. And we never know when something that we've said, I've had people reach out to me and I've said something that I didn't really even think much of. And they said, I really needed to hear this today. And then they'll share some of their story, and I'm thinking, I had no idea. And there's so many things I still haven't shared. I've shared before that I write under a pseudonym just to, I have children and just certain things that I don't want, maybe them to see. But we never know what people are going through. And I love that you're creating that environment, because there are so many people that do not have that support system. And when you mentioned about alcohol, actually, that's something that I have felt isolated about at times, because I don't drink. I've maybe had a few at my high school reunion or on vacation, but it's because I know from both sides of my family, I've seen what it's done. I've seen that it's destroyed lives. I probably would have a tendency to not be able to just drink, socially. And so I've never said anything about it, but I do think we need to speak up and say it is a depressant. Let's call it what it is, and at least know, right? Give them the education and information, like you said. If you do this, don't do this, or this might happen. But a lot of times I just found myself seeing that everything was like wine and this, or wine and that, or alcohol was there. And then it's like, okay, well, do I go if I don't drink? Or it's just sharing those different things that make you feel isolated. And once again, I'm not saying not to drink, but I like that you're bringing that awareness, especially to these young women who we don't know what they're going through. And if they're using that to cover up something, just like the medication, right? When it's misused, that's when it can be dangerous.
For sure.
And so I think more people, if they start speaking up and saying, hey, you can do these things, but know the consequences of them.
I love that. And that is the philosophy that our fitness coach and nutrition coach has for the program, the Fireyoup program. His name is Aaron Zambrano, and his theory is that you can eat anything you want. You can drink, you can do anything you want, but it's knowing what is going to make you, how it's going to make you feel, and what's going to happen when you do that. But you're free to eat fast food, do whatever you want. He doesn't tell you what to eat or what not to eat. He just tells you what it does to your body, and you make that decision. So what we want with the program is bring awareness to what's out there and the consequences of doing it. Same thing with you. I know for a fact that you're going to explain to the girls the different things that they're going to go through and things that they're going to do and not do, but you're not going to tell them, oh, don't do this, don't do that. That's not the right approach. I believe that education, once again, is the key to succeeding in any area of your life, is knowing about it, knowing what causes what, and understanding what's good for me. And once again, going back to loving yourself. And if you love yourself, if you know something is going to be bad for you, then you're not going to do it.
That's right. And then back to the body and the sex issue, same thing, having that conversation. I'm not going to tell you not to have sex, but what I want you to know is to know your body and to know that it's okay to, if you choose to have sex, it is a two-way experience. Because I know for me, growing up as a Christian, I said, I'm not going to have sex till I'm married. That did not happen. I got to college and I did have sex. And I remember that first experience being like, oh. And then I was like, okay, I guess this is what sex is. Because where is that space that you can go to when, one, you're not supposed to be having sex, and two, that you can trust somebody and it's from a healthy perspective? Because I'll tell you one thing, porn is not a good source for that. I quickly found that out. I remember, watching porn with a boyfriend in college and just being like, what? This girl looked nothing like me. And then it just really, looking back, started a whole thing of how I felt about my body, and then at the time I didn't even know to call it labia. I called everything a vagina. And I think a lot of women, we just don't know our bodies. Mm-hmm. We're not even talking to our doctors about it. Yes. And, I had my doctor, my gynecologist, on the podcast, and that's what she was saying. If you can't speak to your gynecologist about it, who are you going to talk to about it? Yes. So I think just knowing those boundaries and not saying, do or don't do something. Yes. Don't be with this person, because at the end of the day, you're the person that has to make that decision. But give us guidelines and let us say, hey, you know what? I had this boundary and this person crossed it. Yes. Okay, okay, I had this boundary and this person crossed it again. Maybe this isn't someone who has the best interest for me. For sure. And I go through that with my girls and just friendships, because I see, hey, let's look for patterns. Everyone makes mistakes, but when it becomes a pattern, maybe it's time to take a break from that relationship as a friend. And these are girls with other girls, because I don't want them to get used to that, and then they get older and have boyfriends and start settling for this behavior. So,
and we've all been there, and I strongly believe that when you go through those experiences, it does help you appreciate when you do have a good relationship. Yes. I love my husband even more now because I went through experiences with other people in the past that didn't treat me right. So now that I have my husband, we've known each other for 8 years, and he still opens the door and he still just makes sure that I'm taken care of. And he's just there for me, supporting me, loving everything that I do. He's not competing with me. He always encourages me. He's not jealous. He appreciates my personality. And that was my biggest thing for me. The biggest challenge was finding somebody who didn't feel intimidated by who I am and who let me be exactly who I am, but also encouraged me to get better. So I am so thankful for those, I'm going to say, idiots that broke my heart, because they helped me appreciate my husband even more now. And I can give you a little bit of an example with my mom. She got married to my dad at 14. They met when they were 14 years old. They're still married. They're still together. Wow. But my mom never had a point of reference because my dad was the only boyfriend that she had. So I do believe that everything experience that you go through helps you appreciate the next thing. So if you have gone through a bad relationship, don't think, oh my God, I was so stupid. Yes, we all make mistakes, but learn from it, and you will appreciate a good person even more when it comes.
I definitely agree with that. Actually, I've shared before, I met my husband over 20 years ago. Oh, wow. I was young and still hadn't finished college, and he was older, and I didn't know how to handle that, having kids and him having been married. Yes. So we ended up reconnecting 12 years ago. And just having come out of what I'd been through and relationships, and then having someone who is so loving and supporting, and just like you said, they're not intimidated, they're not jealous. Yeah.
They're proud of you.
They're proud, and they want the best for you, and it really does make you appreciate it. So just going back to what we said at the beginning, using what's happened for a purpose and
Yes.
for good. And so I just love everything about this. I'm so
sweet. Thank
excited,
you.
and I'm so
Yes.
honored that you've asked me to
Thank
be
you.
part of that.
Yes.
Because that's a lot of what I wanted to be talking about.
That's
This
perfect.
season in Naked Talk, we're going to be talking about, a lot of things like just even cycle syncing, our periods and our
Yes.
bodies and all these wonderful
Hormones
things,
and-
hormones and
Very cool.
maybe getting your fire back,
Yes.
after your 40s.
Yes.
Maybe you'll have to have a Fire You Up over
For
40.
women. Yes.
That's right.
No, I'm telling you how many
40 and beyond.
women have. Yeah, they have messaged me. So yes, this is just the beginning of something big. We're gonna have an introductory meeting this Sunday at 5:00. So if you're out there and you maybe want to get out of your comfort zone and improve a little bit and meet other women and connect, come out, listen to what we have to offer this season. So it's gonna be on September 29th at 5:00 at Calcio Cafe, and you guys can sign up on our website, fireyoup.com, with only one U. I want to make sure it's only one U, and then that's it. And then we will see you guys at 5:00 on Sunday.
And if you're listening to this podcast and it's already passed, you'll be having
yes.
another program. Is there a certain time when you're going to be doing new programs coming out?
Yes.
And
So
you can go to the website and get more information. But
That's perfect. Yeah. So we're gonna be doing this seasonal.
Okay.
So every season we're gonna launch a new journey. It's
Okay.
6 weeks long, and we literally take you through a roller coaster of emotions. And if you're in for the ride, just don't stand up, don't get out, just sit down and enjoy the ride. And I promise you that if you give us 6 weeks of your life, you're definitely gonna change and you're gonna find your fire again.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Natalia.
Thank
I
you.
want to, we had a few questions.
Yes.
So we had them from your Instagram and from my Facebook. So
Yes.
I want to take a second to ask some of
Perfect.
those questions that they had for you.
Okay. Perfect.
And let's
Let
see.
me see if I can get my phone.
Yes. So, yes. So a lot of these, let's see, are about. So I mentioned before that you are also a fitness competitor, and you are 4-time world champion through Musclemania.
Yes.
And do you still compete? Do you still do that?
Yeah, yes. So I compete once a year.
Oh.
And on my journey for my next competition.
Okay.
But it's a lot of preparation. It starts months in advance
Yes.
when you prepare for that. So it's a lot. It's a lot of work, but yeah, I still compete.
Okay, you still compete. And so we have a question. Weights or cardio, what changes the body more?
Weights, for sure. Hands down. I used to only do cardio. I was like a Zumba queen, and I used to just love Zumba. I would do it for hours, and I was like, why is my body not changing? And I do so much Zumba, and I lost a lot of muscle because of it, because cardio is really a great thing to lose fat, but it doesn't build muscle. So I strongly believe to lift heavy and, lift some weight.
That is something that I've shared before. I love Zumba, and I thought until a couple years ago, the more I work out, it's going to be good, right?
Yes.
And then I went to someone here in Houston, Dr. Banks with Finish First, and he said, oh my goodness, like basically I was so under eating that even if I did not get out of bed and do anything,
Yes.
I was under eating for the amount that I burned.
Wow.
So it really was an eye opener. And then I started doing less training, but more intentional.
Yes.
And I was so scared of weights, Natalia. And still, I was laughing with someone the other day at the gym. I'm still a little intimidated. I don't know what it is, but after I've done weights, my lean mass has improved so much. And it's working out less, but being intentional about it. So yes, I agree. Weights. You got to have your cardio in there, but for sure the
Yes.
weights. More women need to do weights. Maybe you can help them with that.
No, for sure. Yes. Uh-huh.
How do you deal with body positivity, and what can make you feel more confident? So we touched a little on that, but
Yes. I would say yes, definitely nutrition and fitness does make you feel better about yourself, and it takes a while. It's not like you work out a couple of weeks and now you're like, okay, where's my abs? It takes a long time to actually look a certain way. And another thing that I wanted to mention is that when you see a fit girl that is showing abs and is maybe on stage or that's looking ripped and all that, that is an illusion. It only lasts a few hours. And I do want to make it very clear that people understand that in order to look like that, you have to be very dehydrated, very low fat percentage. And that is not the healthiest state to be in. So don't strive for that. Strive to be healthy and to feel sexy and to be confident. But yes, I have found confidence in music. I do think that music and dancing give me a lot of confidence. So I encourage you, if you're maybe feeling down, just go take a dance lesson. Even if you're not good at dancing, just the music and just feeling other people and things like that make you feel more confident.
I like that. And that's something that as I didn't have fitness competitor friends until a few years ago. And then when I saw what y'all go through, then it kind of put it more into perspective. So I said a couple years ago, okay, I want to look like them in their off season. Like, you know, I don't want to look at like them in the 6 week. I'm not trying to do the 6 week prep or something, but it's a lot of things. But I think if we're honest about it, that helps women and girls see like, okay, this is this thing, but yet you're healthy year round.
Absolutely.
But something else I learned too that I just wanted to share, because I think fitness and all of this is a very important thing, but it's important that we show the healthy way to do it, right? When I started losing my body fat and then gaining muscle, I had to catch myself because then I was concerned with the number. And actually, Dr. Banks is the one, he said, now, Jess, you know, if you go below, you know, this percentage of body fat, it can affect your cycle. You're not going to be as happy, and Nigel won't be a happy camper. So I saw myself getting caught up in lower. And then I had to say, like you said in this whole podcast, get the information and decide, do I want this or am I okay with this? And I think that's something important that I don't think a lot of women know, that as women, if we go below a certain thing or, you know, strive for something all the time like that, it can affect us. And I did get really cranky, actually. When I was getting down to like the 12%, I was like, ooh. But I think just talking about it and asking questions, and women not being afraid to ask us and us tell them, hey, this is something I'm doing. It's temporary. Don't just look at the pictures. And it's not something that you said you sustain all year round.
For sure.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also knowing that every journey is different. So if somebody works out 5 times a week, that doesn't mean that you have to work out 5 times a week. It's building those habits. And as long as you're making it a lifestyle and you're doing it regularly, you can do it 2 times a week. You can do it 3 times a week. I encourage it at least 30 minutes every morning. That way you can get your brain going. But don't compare your fitness routine to an athlete or to somebody who's already a pro. Just do your own thing, and as long as it works for you, then that's what matters.
Well, and that's something I talk about too. There might be questions on there too, but I talk about bio-individuality. So what works, every body is different. So what works for you, even with eating, you know, may not work for me. So listen to your body. It's so important as we get to know our body, then we'll know, oh, maybe I don't do well with animal protein as much, you know, or maybe I need to have more plant-based, or maybe I do need more animal protein. But it's about knowing that each of us is different. Biologically, we're different, you know, mentally, everything in our lifestyle is different. So thank you for sharing that, because I think you get, you know, what do? You get online, look at someone, and you want to copy what they do. And that's just not always the best thing. So,
the best thing, for sure.
Let's see. So Madi Rodriguez, Madi, she said, such an amazing, empowering lady. Miss Natalia, thank you so much. Yes, she is amazing. And I really want to thank you again for being here.
Of course.
Let us know one more time where we can go to get more information about the Fire You Up project.
Yes, absolutely. So follow our Instagram page. It's called Fire You Up, with only one U. And you can also go to our website to kind of read more about it. Stay tuned on the different events that we have coming up. And then that was going to be fireyouup.com. And yeah, just pretty much follow me on my Instagram as well. I'm always open for questions. If you have any questions, you can always, you know, message me. And my Instagram is Natalia Castillo Houston. And that's it. I'm ready for what's coming. And I'm very, very excited that you're joining us in this journey. And that you're for being part of this movement that we're creating. And I want to thank you again for your trust, and thank you so much for inviting me and sharing your story. You have inspired me in many ways as well. And I want to look like you when I'm 42 and when I have 3 kids. I don't have kids yet, and that has always been something in my mind, like, oh my God, what am I going to look like when I have kids? But I think that as long as I keep a good lifestyle and keep working out and staying active, I strongly believe that I can look like you.
Oh, goodness. Yes. I love all of that. And if you've missed any of this, if you're listening on the podcast, you can go, we will have all your links in the show notes. It's unprocessedjess.com /podcast.
Yes.
And you can find out more about Natalia and the program. And y'all have a great day. And we'll talk to you again on Naked Talk.
Ciao.
Bye.